Hi, my name is Megan Mahoney, and I'm the librarian for physical sciences. In this video, we're going to talk about the databases available at ESU for primary literature and chemistry. Before we actually go into any of the databases, I want to tell you a little bit about the types of databases that we're going to see. Broadly speaking, databases fall into three categories, very broadly speaking: indexes, full-text databases, and preprint servers. Now, indexes are basically databases of citations and abstracts for published literature. There's no full text. So an example of this would be SciFinder. SciFinder doesn't actually contain full text articles of research literature, but all of the citations for published articles are there. Then there are full text databases. So in these databases, we have citations, abstract, and the full text of articles. Sometimes you will get a database that is a mix of the two. It will have some records that are just records of citations and some that also contain the full text. And then finally, there are preprint servers. Preprint repositories collect pre-publication versions of research articles. So these are the manuscript versions that may or may not have been through peer review. It kind of depends on the journal or the publisher and what version of the article they will allow the author to archive. But generally speaking, it is not the polished final version that goes on the publisher website. It's less pretty, but the information is still essentially the same. Databases can also be proprietary or public or open access. Open access means publicly available. No subscription is needed to use the database. You will see both proprietary and open access databases in the library's database list. So now let's find the chemistry databases. If you go to the library's homepage and click on the databases icon, you'll see the library A to Z list. From the drop-down box, I'm going to choose chemistry. Now here are the databases recommended for chemistry. In this video, we're not actually going to search any of them. I'm going to tell you how they're related so that you know what you're searching for when you go into one of them. So I'm going to move this over. And put these side by side. Move. Now you may already be familiar with SciFinder. It is an index, so it does not contain the full text of research articles, even though it does contain some handbook type material, such as information on substances. It is the primary research database for chemists, and it is proprietary. The ESU library pays close to $10,000 a year for access to SciFinder. So that's the first in my list, but of course not the top on the A to Z list because it's alphabetical order. So next on my list, you see the American Chemical Society. Over here, that is the American Chemical Society web editions. It is an index and a full text for us because we only subscribe to 5 of the journals in it. Those 5 are Analytical Chemistry, Inorganic Chemistry, the Journal of Chemical Education, the Journal of the American Chemical Society, and the Journal of Organic Chemistry. There are over 30 American Chemical Society journals, as well as a bunch of ebooks, but our full text access is restricted to 5 for budgetary reasons. So you can use it as an index and then know that the full text for those 5 journals is there. Now, the American Chemical Society is indexed in SciFinder, so you don't have to search these 2 databases independently. If you search SciFinder, it will include the American Chemical Society journals. And if you happen to click on a record for an article in one of the 5 journals we subscribe to, it is possible to get to the full text from within SciFinder. The American Chemical Society search interface is a little bit simpler than SciFinder, which I think is a bit unwieldy. So that is a reason that some people may choose to go directly into ACS and search there rather than in SciFinder. But know that if you're searching SciFinder, you are also including that content. Now, you might be surprised to see Academic Search Complete on this list. It's interdisciplinary, and I typically recommend it to lowerclassmen as a first stop on any topic because it is so diverse and contains scholarly and popular resources. However, it also indexes science journals, including the Public Library of Science journals, such as PLOS One. So if you search it, you are also searching the Public Library of Science. And I think the Academic Search Complete interface is better than Public Library of Science. I was on it earlier trying to get to various things, and some of the links just are not cooperating. So that is a reason to use Academic Search Complete rather than Public Library of Science directly. Now, Public Library of Science is open access, so you don't have to have a subscription to access the articles in it. You could be in your house, Google Public Library of Science, go into it and search it just the same as you would if you were here on campus. You don't have to go through this journal list to get there. Do be assured, though, that articles published in Public Library of Science journals are peer-reviewed. So they're scholarly, even though they're also freely accessible. Jove, which is down here, is another open access database. Jove stands for the Journal of Visualized Experiments. It publishes scientific articles with a video component. The idea being that videos demonstrating methods aid reproducibility in scientific research. Certain years of the journal are open access, but the most recent 2 years are only accessible if you have a subscription. The link that's here takes you to the journal on PubMed, and you can search it there. I'll show you that in a different video, although it's probably not obvious from where you land when you click this link. You could also just search PubMed, and that would include Jove. So if any of the articles published in this journal were relevant to your search, then they would just show up in your search. It is also indexed in Agricola, which you see over here, which is a proprietary database. So PubMed is free. It's a database managed by the National Library of Medicine. Medline is part of it. Medline is a subset of PubMed. These two are open access, but we get to them through EBSCO like we do a lot of our databases. Agricola is proprietary. It's agricultural information. So if you were interested in the chemistry of agriculture, like with soils or fertilizers or pesticides or any of that, Agricola would be a good place to search for that information. Now, PubMed is not tagged as a chemistry database. You'll see that it's not in this list. It is both an index and a full text database. It does index biochemical literature related to medicine. So if that is an area of interest, you should consider searching it. You can get to it by backing out of the chemistry tag up here and either going to all or to health, medicine and health. If you go to all, then you'll go to P for PubMed and you'll find it that way. Or it will be one of the first results on the medicine and health dropdown. Now, another title that's not on this list, but that you might find useful, is the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. These proceedings are indexed in SciFinder, PubMed, and various EBSCO databases. So chances are, if you are searching SciFinder, or Academic Search Complete, or PubMed, you are also searching this publication and will get any relevant results in your search. However, it is possible to search it directly. So we're going to back out here, go to all subjects. Proceedings, where'd you go? And it's right here. So we'll look at this database in the next video. Now, the last journal on the chemistry database, or the last entry on the chemistry database list, Today's Science, is not a great place for primary literature. It says there are 6,000 original articles, but it's more like a popular science publication. So not a good place to go for serious research, great place to go for background information, particularly for non-science majors, but for you, this one is not going to be real useful. Now you'll notice that I have the EBSCOhost icon here by Academic Search Complete, Agricola, and PubMed Medline. I often hear students refer to EBSCOhost as a database, but more accurately, it is a metadatabase. Probably it's easiest to think about it as a search interface, actually. We access many of the databases to which the library subscribes through this EBSCO interface, and we can also search some of the open access databases, such as PubMed, through this interface. But it is not the database itself, it is just an interface. SciFinder is not accessible through EBSCOhost. You do have to search it separately. SciFinder is, well, the American Chemical Society is very particular about controlling access to SciFinder. So you have to go to it directly, and that's why you have to have your own account within SciFinder, even though ESU has already purchased access to the database. But anyway, you can get to any EBSCO database, so Academic Search Complete, Agricola, PubMed, once you're in the EBSCO interface. So if I go in here, you'll see I'm searching Academic Search Complete, but I can switch that. If I want to search, if I'm interested in bioscience, let's see, this is not necessarily in alphabetical order, be aware. It starts off that way, but all right, so I'm going to search Medline. So now you can see the interface looks exactly the same, but the database it overlays is different. So I can also get out of Medline. I can search Agricola. What else might I want to search? Maybe I want to search Agricola and Academic Search Complete at the same time. I can try doing that. So see here, you can try to search more than one database at the same time. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It really depends on the topic and how you're searching, but that's possible. Now, I'd like to mention a couple of places to look for articles that are not in the A to Z list. Whoop. First, Google Scholar. Yes, I did say Google. Lots of academics use it, and it can be a great way to find the full text of papers that are floating around on the web. You can go into settings in your account on Google Scholar, tell it what academic library you're affiliated with, and it will try to tell you whether or not you have full text access to something based on the library that you're affiliated with. It's also a good way to track citations or how many times a particular paper is cited, because the databases that scientists traditionally use for that are not ones that ESU can access. The subscription fees for Scopus and Web of Science are just too high for a school our size. So Google Scholar citation tracking is kind of what we have to rely on. You could also look at places like preprint servers. So as I said, preprints are the manuscript or pre-publication versions of articles published in journals. Two chemistry ones are ChemArchive and ChemRN. So that is a way of finding access to articles that are maybe behind a paywall. Otherwise, if you need it right now. If you don't need it right now, you can always get an article through interlibrary loan if you hit a paywall. We'll go over that in class and not in this video. ChemArchive, I just want to point out, I have the SciFinder icon there. ChemArchive is indexed in SciFinder. So if you search SciFinder, you are also searching preprint manuscripts in that repository. Last, you might look at government databases like the Office of Scientific and Technical Information Service. Government information is sometimes included in index databases and sometimes it's not. Government information is kind of a unique animal to deal with when you're researching. So if there's a particular type of scientific or technical information that's of interest, like say if you were an engineer and you were particularly interested in aerospace engineering, there's a database for NASA documents. The OSTI is a database for research published by the Department of Energy. So some things there will be chemical in nature, some things won't be, but it's available. And so you might have to think kind of broadly like, okay, who might be doing, what government entity might be doing research on the topic I'm interested in? Do they have a database? Can I find it and just search there to make sure that I'm getting everything I need? So that concludes our overview of sources for primary chemical literature. You're probably saying, that's great, Megan, but where do I search first? Well, first, you search SciFinder. Then, you search Academic Search Complete. Third, Google Scholar. If you're trying to be exhausted, if you're not getting a lot of results, or if you have a very particular application that you're interested in, such as chemistry in the context of agriculture or medicine, then you might want to go to a subject-specific database or a preprint server. Stuff that's available on a preprint server might not be out yet or indexed in a traditional database, published in the journal, and you would get the full text faster that way. Sometimes stuff's put there and it doesn't end up going through the publication process. So it depends on what the requirements for the preprint server are. So it's just a good place to check if you have a niche topic or a very particular application that you're looking at. So SciFinder, Academic Search Complete, Google Scholar. If you end up leaving ESU to go to a bigger school, you will have access to some awesome databases such as Web of Science, Scopus, and InSpec, which are going to give you way more information than even these. and there are great librarians there who will help you figure out how to use those. But these are a good start. In the next video, we'll look at how to search some of these.